Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel, because this is like my first video, so yeah. I thought I would do what I read for the summer. I read a total of 9 books. Wow, look at me go. I'm such a reader now, so advanced. But yeah, I thought I'd do a little summer book haul of like everything that I read over the summer. And yeah, I'm talking about summer books, however I'm dressed like it's fall, which by the time you're watching this it's probably fall for most of you, except where I'm from it's like 100 degrees out, so not really fall. Also, that's my cat. So let's just go into this video. Okay, I'm kind of going, really there's no particular order, I just like grabbed the books that I read and I just put them in a pile over here, so we're just gonna get on with that. The first one that I read, which is probably my favorite, second favorite, is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I literally love Emily Henry so much. I read Beach Read about like literally a year ago, and I absolutely fell in love with like Emily Henry's writing and everything. And then so when she released Book Lovers, I was like, I have to read this, obviously. I mean, the title speaks for itself. Basically, Book Lovers is about Nora and Charlie, and basically Nora is a literary agent and Charlie's an editor, and they basically end up going to this town. So Nora goes to this town with her sister, and then Charlie happens to be in that town as well, and so basically they just end up like just becoming lovers. I mean, it's in the title. It's like enemies to friends to lovers, if that makes sense. But yeah, it was such an amazing read. This book had me laughing so hard. I've never related to a main character more in my life than I have Nora, especially with how she feels with like family and just everything in general, especially about like her work life and everything. Her work-life balance is something that like I definitely relate to a lot. And Charlie, I mean, Charlie's mine. Like, someone needs to find me a Charlie in my life because I desperately need one. And this book is just so good. I absolutely love it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's honestly probably one of my favorite romance books of all time, because it was just something that I could relate to and just had me laughing. And also what I loved too was like the main couple, like the main characters, Nora and Charlie, were actually like relatable. Like, they weren't like, I feel like in some romance books it's like kind of like, oh my god, I love you, so like we have to be together, we have to love each other, where this one was like they were actually like, they loved each other for like real reasons, and like they actually had stuff in common, and I really loved it. I loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend. The next one I have, which I haven't seen, a lot of people have not talked about this book, which I'm like, why? Because it's actually such a good book, is If I Had Your Face by Frances Chai. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering that, I'm not the best with names. But yeah, it's If I Had Your Face, and this follows the story of how many girls? I believe this follows the story of 4 girls, but there's like 5 of them in total, but you only hear from like the 4 of them, and one of them is like a hairdresser, one of them is a newlywed trying to have a baby, one of them is an artist, one of them works for a room salon, and it's set in Seoul, Korea, and it's basically about all 5 technically, but there's 4, but it's basically about all 4 of these ladies who live in this apartment complex together, and they're all going through like, they're all going through different things, however like they all relate to one another, if that makes any sense. And literally this was such a good book, such an informative book about the beauty standards in Seoul, Korea, and it was just such an interesting read, and like I was just so shocked. And I love how we got like each, like in chapters, was like about someone different, which I really enjoyed getting like each person's perspective on it, and it was just such a good read, especially like the ending. I really enjoyed the ending. This is a spoiler-free video, by the way, so like not gonna spoil anything obviously, but I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The only reason why it didn't get 5 out of 5 stars was because I felt like the ending, there was like something missing at the end, and I really would have liked it if we gotten to dive deeper into some of the other characters' backstories, because we really only got like, we got the characters' backstories, but I feel like it would have been nice if we got into, like, dive deeper into their backstories. I feel like that would have helped the story go along more swiftly. But yeah, other than that, 4 to 5 stars. I highly recommend this book. It's literally, it's really short, but it's such like an informative read about the beauty standards in Seoul, Korea, and I absolutely loved it. Wait, is it Seoul? Oh my god, I've been saying Seoul. It's Seoul, Korea. Okay, I just butchered that. I'm so sorry. I'm getting not the best, but I'm not the best with speaking, but I absolutely love this book. 4 to 5 stars. Recommend. The next book that I read, this was my second Colleen Hoover book. My first one that I read was It Ends With Us, which I absolutely love. Gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Little did I know this one would take me for a whole loophole, and every time I go in stores and I see this book, I can't stop thinking about it. And it's Verity by Colleen Hoover. This was the trauma that I went through while reading this book was so insane. Like, I loved It Ends With Us, but this one, dare I say I loved it a little more. That might be controversial, but I don't know, like, I hope Colleen Hoover writes more books like this one, because I was so addicted to it from page 1. I kid you not, I read this in 2 days. I could not put it down. It was just such an informative book. And no, it wasn't informative. Basically, it's about Lowen and Jeremy Craw. It's about Lowen, who is a struggling writer, and then Jeremy, his wife Verity, she ends up getting in an accident, and she still has, like, Verity writes books, and so she has, like, this whole series that is not completed yet, and Lowen and Verity have similar writing styles, and so Jeremy's like, hey, come, you know, stay at my house and you can continue writing these books that Verity has written. You can continue writing the series, which that should have been her first red flag, was when that happened. Really, this book is just a whole red flag, and I mean, everyone in this book deserves to be questioned. Like, like, everyone in this book needs therapy. I needed therapy after this. It was such, I'm so happy because I read this book with one of my best friends, and thank God I did, because I had someone to talk to about this book, because the amount of times I've not shared about this book is insane. It's just, like, the plot, like, okay, if you were to tell me that this, like, the beginning of this book was gonna end how it ended, I would have laughed at you. I'd been like, there's no way, but it did, and I'm still shook. To read it in order to understand what happened. Let me know in the comments below if you're team manuscript or letter. I'm team manuscript. Yeah, that's the correct one, I think. But yeah, there's questionable things, and but it was great. The writing was great. The storyline threw me through for a loop, and I just sat there and I was speechless. But 5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend. I actually got an arc of this from one of my best friends. Thank you so much, Corey. I love you. It is Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong, aka the love of my life. I love Chloe Gong so much. I love her writing. I love her style. I'm such a huge Shakespeare fan, and so when she came out with These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends, which is inspired by Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare, and I read those 2 books this year and absolutely fell in love with them, and literally probably one of my favorite duologies of all time, and I just absolutely loved it. And so this is kind of like the sequel to Our Violent Ends, but like not really. So basically, These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends follows Romeo and Juliet and like their whole like crew, basically. Or like Juliet's friend Rosalind. This follows Rosalind and Orion, and basically they're undercover spies, and they have to go undercover as undercover spies do. And basically it follows Rosalind and Orion, who have to pretend to be married, and they're spies, and Rosalind's codename is Foul Lady Fortune, because basically she got sick, but now she can live forever because something was injected into her body. Basically this is kind of what this whole book is about, but it's like so much more than that, and such a good book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend. I will die for this book. First of all, I love the cover and how it's pink. Pink's one of my favorite colors, so I absolutely love this. and I just the romance in here is just so freaking cute. Orion is he is like such a sweetheart. Like he's so sarcastic but like so sweet. And Rosalind's, honestly it's kind of like Grumpy and Sunshine, except the girl is like the grumpy one and then the guy is like the sunshine. It's so freaking adorable and I love it so much. Yeah, I definitely, however, I will say, I mean, you don't have to, but I personally recommend that you read These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends first, because that way, like, the character dynamics in this book will make sense. And I think, because she's also making like a mini novella after this one, which is called Last Violent Call, or what is it called? Last Call or something? I forget what it's called, but I feel like once that one comes out, I feel like you're gonna have to read them in order. If that makes any sense. I don't love this book so much. The writing style is just so beautiful. It's honestly like what does it for me is the characters. The characters just make this book worthwhile, and I'm just never bored while reading it. And oh my god, like I loved it. I love it so much. Oh my god, it's incredible, especially because I love Shakespeare so much. So like the Shakespeare like references that like come in here, I'm just so excited. But it comes out September 27th, which is next week, and or the week after next, but I'm literally like, hands down 5 out of 5 stars. Might be my favorite read of the year, not really sure yet, but I love this and I love Chloe Gong. It was amazing. That was Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This book oh my god, this book, I literally am trying to make my best friend buy this book. I said I'll even give her my copy just so she can read it, because I need to talk about it with someone, because wow, like, okay, this book, listen, don't go into this book thinking this is a cutesy romance. This is not a cutesy romance. The guy Miles, he treats Tate, yeah, her name's Tate, don't ask, but the guy Miles like treats her awfully terribly, but then you get to like the twist of the book and you're just like, oh my god, and then you like feel so bad for him and her, like you just feel bad for everyone in this book, and hence why it's called Ugly Love. But basically it's like brother's best friend. Miles is a pilot and Tate moves in with her brother, and her brother's best friend lives like 2 doors down from them, and they have a romance with each other, and it just gets ugly. It truly is such an ugly love, but oh my god, the twist like broke me. I was just sobbing when I finished this book. I have tear stains at the back of this book because I was just crying profusely, and then after that I had to go get my nails done, which was not a good vibe, but literally was like sobbing. It's my gap, but literally I was sobbing. It's such an ugly love, but it's like, it's so addicting that I could not put it down. I just needed to know more, and oh my god, okay, I'm gonna let you out. It's just, I was so shocked, but I was like so invested in this book that for the life of me I could not put it down, and I easily gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's just Colleen Hoover, she does it every time, I swear, does it literally every time. And oh my god, like, if you've read it, please comment down below because I need to talk about it with someone. Then these next 2 books, I had to read them for school because I'm doing AP Lit for my senior year of high school, so I had to read these. The first one I read is Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, I don't know, but it's Catcher in the Rye, which I absolutely hated this book. This is, I don't want to say it's like my least favorite book ever written, but it's probably my least favorite book ever written. I absolutely hated this book. I don't like it. I'm sorry, I don't. There's so many red flags. There's literally nothing good. If you go on a first date with a guy or whoever and they say, oh, my favorite book is Catcher in the Rye, you should run, not walk, run. This book is such a red flag book. Also, I'm sorry if anyone likes this book, because like, no judge too. If you like it, you like it. That's great. I love that for you. But personally, not for me. It's just, there's so many red flags in this book, and there's just like there really was no plot, and Holden just does questionable things. Basically, this book is about this guy in high school. His name's Holden, and I know Holden out of all things. and he has been kicked out of pretty much every school that he's ever gone to. And basically he gets kicked out of this one boarding school, and so instead of like leaving the boarding school and going home, he leaves it, but he takes his time getting home. And so he like books a hotel, and he just starts like doing and just talking about life in like a very weird way, and just red flag. I don't like this book at all. The only reason why it's tabbed is because, again, school. I will never read this again. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. The only reason it didn't get 1 out of 5 stars was simply because there was one quote in here that like I liked, and that was it. So that's why it's got 2 out of 5. I had to read it for school, which I literally loved so much, and it was so like, oh my god, I can't even describe it, but it is The Color Purple by Alice Walker, which I absolutely loved. Obviously there's more tabs in this one, but I love this one. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Basically The Color Purple is about Cecile and Nettie, and it follows basically like the friendship of these 2 sisters over the span of many years. And it was such, oh my god, it was truly incredible. Like, I can't even describe to you like the emotions that went on in this book, and like the topics that were brought up with like race and culture and God and just everything in general. And it was such a touching book. I'm so glad that I got to read this for AP Lit, because it was just such a moving book. And like I literally was crying like honestly the whole entire book, because I just felt so bad for these 2 sisters and everything that they both went through. And I was, especially everyone in the book, true, like I just, it brought so much emotion out of me, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The writing style I loved. What I thought was interesting in this book was that like typically when someone, you know, speaks, like a character speaks, there's like quotations around that, but in this book there wasn't any, and I thought that I wouldn't like that, but I actually like really enjoyed it. And it was such a good book. So much like heartbreaking pain and like but there's also like resilience in this book, and there's just so much like dynamics just happening that I loved it so much. I definitely want to watch the movie. This definitely is such like a heavy book, so like obviously like be aware of that when you read this. But I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Belladonna, one of those words, Belladonna by Adeline Grace, which this is my first book by her. I own her other 2 books. She also wrote All the Stars and Teeth. I own both of those. I just haven't read them, but I got to read this one by her, and oh my gosh, never in my life did I think I would love death, but I do. Basically Belladonna follows, oh, the book is now out by the way, but basically Belladonna follows Signa Farrow, who is an orphan, and this is set during the Victorian era. And so basically her parents are dead, and so she's been like living with different like family members until she finally has to go to Thorn Grove and her uncle and her 2 cousins. And she knows that there's a lot of like things going on in this house, and so she wants to solve it, because the romance in this book is between her and Death. And yes, Death is an actual person in this book, but it was such, oh my god, like the twist, oh my god. I am so excited for book 2. I think it's gonna be duology, and I'm so excited for book 2 because the ending just like shook me to my core. But I love that it was a Victorian era. I loved the writing in this. I could not finish this book fast enough, and the relationship between Signa and Death just like pulled me in even further and made me want to read this book more. And it was such like, it's an amazing book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. Okay, the last book that I read for this summer was The Deal by Elle Kennedy. This is part of the Off-Campus series, and this is the first one in the series. I believe there's like 4 books in total, and then the 5th one's like the epilogue. I enjoyed this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I absolutely love Graham and Hannah. So basically this one, duo POV, which I loved so much. I love when romance works are dual POV, because I feel like it makes me more invested in the romance book. It just does. And so this follows Hannah, who is like an aspiring, and Graham wants Hannah to tutor him because he's on the hockey team. It's like a hockey romance, and he needs Hannah to help him. I believe it's with English or history. It's one of those two. Watch, it's not even that. No, it's either but he needs Hannah to help him with English or history. It's one of those two. And Hannah doesn't really want to, but she's like, oh fine, whatever, I'll help you. And so they end up, so she ends up helping him, and they kind of, you know, they start to flirt with each other, and they kind of start to realize that like they both like each other, but they're also like too scared to make the move, and it's just like this whole thing. But Hannah likes this other guy, and so Graham's like, oh, why don't we just like pretend to be a fake couple, and then that way you can like get with this other guy. But as this is happening, Graham starts falling for Hannah, and vice versa. And oh my gosh, Graham is such the sweetest guy. Like literally, he's so sweet. Like you think hockey romance, oh, he's gonna be like trash. No, he's so sweet. Like I genuinely love them both so much, and Hannah just deserves the absolute world, and I know Graham can give that to her, and I was so invested. This is honestly such an easy read. Like I finished this so quickly, and I think that's what I enjoyed about it, was that I didn't have to think while reading this book. Like it was just something easy that I could read, and I got through it really quickly. And yeah, I gave it 4 to 5 stars. So that was all I read over the summer. I hope you all enjoy this video. Comment down below what you read this summer, or what was your favorite book that you read this summer, and leave me a comment down below. I love you all so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.